brought to you by the Shmuz. Explore more content at theshmuz.com.
Before we begin today's podcast, a little shout out to those of you who want to be inspired. For more inspirational content, message us at +1 91489 36848 for your daily dose of inspiration from the Rabbi.
Okay, welcome. Okay, as people start coming in, welcome to the Shmuz Live. Welcome. Okay, we'll start getting ready as soon as people start coming in. We'll just give a moment or two for people to come in and get comfortable. Before we start, just a couple of quick announcements. The Shmuz on the Parsha, or actually the Parsha in Depth, is a series that I recorded about 2 years ago. I mentioned last week, I go through each Parsha. I spend about 45 minutes on one small section of the Parsha. I really dig into an area, and I think it's a wonderful way of learning Chumash, because typically, we learned Chumash when we were kids. We would go through it, Maver Sedra, but there are many, many parts, probably in every Sedra, that at least one or two, maybe three sections that unless you really dig in, you really don't know what's going on. So I spent on each parsha, I took one small area. It was, let's say, it was Chet of Adam Rishon or Noach. It was Dar Flaga. So I took one small area, and I learned through the Rishonim, the Gemaras, and I put it together in a very nice shir. And it's a series now called the Parsha in Depth. Each week there's a shir on that week's parsha. This week's parsha is Lecha. And it's a good way of really getting into the what's actually going on in parts of the parsha that you're often not going to understand and not going to be familiar with. So I really highly recommend that. In addition to that, I want to mention that there are quite a number of series on the Shmuz.com, as well as the Shmuz podcast or the Shmuz app. A lot of people are aware of the Shmuz, but they're not aware of the series that are there. So in the series, we have the B'tachon workshop, we have Life 101, Guard Your Tongue, Humility, Arrogance, Creating Balanced Self-Esteem, quite a number of major series. There's also the marriage seminar, which is I highly recommend that, especially if you're not married yet, because that is quite honestly, and that's the time to learn, and not when you're thick and thin of things. So that's another highly recommended shir. Actually, I didn't ask this question, which really is a very interesting question to ask, and that is, can you hear? Okay, Avram actually answered that very good. Is the audio clear? And is the audio isn't clear yet, I don't think, because actually I didn't put my mic on my lapel, which I really should have done, and that would be, hopefully will be even more clear now. Can you hear me more clearly now, or hopefully you can. But I'm hoping that that's clear. Okay, louder. Oh, excellent, good. Okay, louder, I hope is better. Okay, so in any case, if you look on the site, or the Shmuz app, you'll see quite a number of series. We have minor series and major series. The major series are usually 8 to 20 shurim on one subject. The minor series are smaller series, usually about 4. We have each one on the different Yom Tovim. The Wonders of the World is there also. There are quite a number. There's also dating, etc., and as well as the Shmuz on a Parsha, which is on the weekly Parsha. So I just wanted people to become familiar with it, because a lot of people are not aware of that. Okay, we'll take another moment or two. Please feel free at any time, if you have questions, please feel free to type them into the Q&A. That's where I'll answer. In addition to which, once I'm done my little part, I'll open the floor for questions, and you'll be able to ask at any point then. So just feel free to either at any point type it into the Q&A, or again, when we're finished, you could raise your hand, and I highly welcome questions on the topic this evening or another topic. It's all good. And also, if you've not gotten the WhatsApp group, the Shmuz Chizik WhatsApp group, and you're interested, we send 3-4 times a week. We send out short 2-3 minute videos that are very inspiring, very motivational. If you'd like to join that, please subscribe to 845-216-9330. Again, that's 845-216-9330, and we'll gladly put you into the subscription. And also, if you haven't gotten the Shmuz book, 2 Worlds, 1 Chance, if you go to book, B-O-O-K dot, theshmuz.com, that's B-O-O-K dot, THESHMUZ.com, you get the Shmuz book. It's 2 Worlds, 1 Chance. The book is free. I only ask that you participate in the shipping. Someone sponsored the actual copies, but that's a wonderful way of being able to learn Mussar during the week as well as on Shabbos. Okay, and again, please feel free to type in questions, etc., and I'll open the floor to questions when I'm finished. In addition to that, I'll either answer the ones you've typed in. We also have some people who typed in before, but okay, let's start. Parshas Lech opens up with one of the 10 nisyonos of Avram Avinu. Shem says to Avram, Lech lecha me'artzecha miladecha, leave your birthplace, your homeland, and go la'aretz asher erecha. And this is one of the 10 major nisyonos that Avram Avinu faces. He gets to Eretz Yisrael, and no sooner does he get there than there's a famine in the land. But a famine in the land only there. Nowhere else in the land was there a famine, only there. And because of that, he and his wife and Lot had to go to Mitzrayim. And then, in fact, the entire event with Sarah Imenu being taken to Paro's house happened. And this is one of the 10 nisyonos of Avram Avinu. Now, the Mishnah Birkei Avos tells us that there were 10 separate nisyonos that Avram Avinu faced, and each one he passed with flying colors. Now, let's understand before we begin what a nisayon is. The Ramban explains, if I'm a teacher and I'm standing in the front of the class, I give the class a test because I don't know what they know or what they don't know. I give them a test so that I then know what they know. Hashem knows all, and Hashem doesn't need to give an nisayon to know where Avram Avinu is holding. And a nisayon, explains the Ramban, is an opportunity to take years and years of growth and put it into an actual act that concretizes it. It locks into an act all of the years of growth, meaning work on Emunah, work on Bitachon, whatever it may be. And this one challenge allows him to take all of that work and put it into the final form. It's kind of like training for the Olympics. You train for years and years. There's one final meet, and that's where you go for the gold. If you don't make it to that meet, if you trip on the way to the finish line, all those years of work are probably for naught. That's in the sense of what a nisayon is. A nisayon is an opportunity to take years and years of work and bring it to fruition, allowing that person to reach a greater madrega. Every one of the nisyonos that Avram Avinu faced, he passed with flying colors. And for eternity, these are diamonds in his crown. These are shining lights. The Achronim explained to us that the test for Avram Avinu was not whether he would do it or not. The test wasn't, will he listen to Hashem? The question was, would he be maharer achamidosa? Would he question Hashem? Meaning, he gets to the land of Israel. And immediately, after great danger and great coming to himself, he finds there's nothing to eat. Would he question Hashem? Would he say to himself, why did Hashem do this? Is Hashem abandoning me? Avram Avinu was being tested to see if he would be maharer, if he would have thoughts against Hashem. Every one of these tests he passed, and this is one of them, the Asar Nisyonos. And that's quite interesting, except for one little problem. The Ramban explains that this act that Avram Avinu did when he went down to Mitzrayim, says the Ramban, Chet Godel Chota Avram Avinu. A great sin Avram Avinu did. B'shkoga, it was a shogeg, but it was a great sin. Explains the Ramban. Had Avram Avinu had more bitachon, he would have known that Hashem could feed him and his family in Eretz Yisrael, just like Hashem could feed them in Mitzrayim. Had Avram Avinu had more bitachon, he would have stayed in Eretz Yisrael and Hashem would have fed him. And therefore, Chet Godel, a great sin, b'shogeg, he did it inadvertently, but a great sin, he sinned, because not only did he leave Eretz Yisrael, but he endangered his wife. And the Ramban says this was a great sin of Avram Avinu. Now, that Ramban is very difficult to understand, because the Mishnah counts this as one of the Asar Nisyonos, one of the 10 tests of Avram Avinu, and every one of them he passed. So if he passed it, and this is a shining light for eternity, how does the Ramban say, Chet Gadol, he sinned a great sin, when this was one of the great accomplishments of Avram Avinu. And this Ramban requires understanding. And to understand this Ramban, I'd like to share with you a perspective. It was a number of years ago, and a frum psychiatrist called me up with the following problem. He had a patient, a young man who was in yeshiva, and the young man was being destroyed by guilt. He was a bocher, a single fellow, and he was involved in a vera that many single fellows are involved in, but it wasn't the sin that was the problem, it was the guilt. He felt such guilt, and he felt so dirty about this, and that it literally was killing him. So the psychiatrist called me up to ask me, what should he say to this young man? What should he advise him? Now, that's a little bit of a difficult problem. What should I say? It's mutter, it's not mutter, it's maybe mabul, it's certainly not permitted. On the other hand, tell him it's forbidden, it's like pouring kerosene on the fire. So what do you say? So I told the psychiatrist, I want you to say to him as follows. The Gemara tells us there were 4 people who never sinned. 4 people who in the course of history never sinned. Who were those 4 people? One was Binyamin ben Yaakov. Other one was Amram, the father of Moshe. Yishai, the father of David, and Kalev ben David. These 4 people, the Gemara tells us, never sinned. And I said to this, I said, but I want you to note something. These 4 people are not amongst the greatest human beings who ever lived. The greats of the greats are Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, David, Shlomo. The 7 greatest human beings who ever lived are not in this list. These 4 don't make it anywhere near the list of the greatest people. As a matter of fact, Kalev ben David, to be honest with you, I didn't even know how to pronounce his name. When I first read the Medrash, I knew it was one of David's sons, but it's without Nakudas. I didn't know how to, I forgot from Nach, I had to look it up to see how to pronounce it. So here's the point. If these 4 people never sinned, why is it that they are not in the annals of the ultimate greats? In fact, they're nowhere near the ultimate greats. What's pshat? And I said to the psychiatrist, I want to explain to this young man something very, very fundamental. I said, imagine I have in my hand 2 diamonds. In each hand, I have a 10-carat diamond. In my left hand, a 10-carat diamond. In my right hand, a 10-carat diamond. In my left hand is a 10-carat diamond that is utterly, completely flawless. Internally, externally, completely perfect, a flawless diamond. In my other hand is a 10-carat diamond, albeit with a small flaw, very, very small flaw, but it's a small flaw. What is the difference in the value between these 2 diamonds? I said the diamond with a small flaw, 10-carat diamond is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the 10-carat diamond that's perfect, internally and externally flawless, is worth $200. Why? Because perfect diamonds are made in a laboratory. The first indication of whether a diamond is real or not is there a flaw? Because any diamond coming from the ground is going to have a flaw, whether it be minor, whether it be major. There's going to be some imperfection, because the only perfect diamonds are made in the lab, and the minute you see a flawless diamond, you know it's not real. And I said that's exactly the point. You see, a diamond with a flaw is a diamond. If you have a diamond with a flaw, the flaw doesn't prove that it's not a diamond, quite the opposite. The flaw proves that it is a real diamond. These 4 people never sinned. They were perfect, but they were nowhere near Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, David, and Shlomo, even though every one of those 7 sinned. But you see, a powerful 200-carat diamond with a small flaw is a very, very powerful diamond. And the point here is that the goal in life is to be great, to accomplish, and along the way, likely you're going to slip up. Likely there are going to be things you do wrong, but that doesn't prove that you're worthless. Quite the opposite, it proves you're real. And I said to the psychiatrist, I want to explain to this young man that he has 2 nisyonos he's facing, a major one and a minor one. The minor one is the avera he's dealing with right now. That's a minor nisayon. He deals with it now. Maybe he won't deal with it now. Maybe he'll deal with it first when he gets married. I don't know. But the major nisayon that he's really facing is, what does he do with the guilt? If he implodes, if he feels that he's worthless and is a slime, he will amount to nothing. And if he learns to deal with that, he'll grow, he'll accomplish. He's learning in yeshiva. He may become a Talmid Chacham. He may never really conquer this for years, and may not conquer for a decade or more. But he will be a great human being with a flaw, but a tremendous human being. But if he implodes now, stops learning, and just becomes nothing and nobody, he'll be a nobody. He'll be a nothing and just an imploded self. And I explained to this psychiatrist what he has to tell this fellow is that the fact that a human being has a flaw doesn't make him worthless. The mistake we make is we see the flaw and we stop seeing the diamond. A diamond with a flaw is a very, very valuable diamond. With a flaw, the flaw does not negate the diamond does not negate the flaw. You have to be able to look at the diamond and say, wow, it's precious. Yes, there's a flaw, I'm aware of it, but again, that doesn't devalue the diamond, quite the opposite, it shows it's real. And I believe that's exactly the answer to Avram Avinu. Had Avram Avinu been on a higher madrega, had he been even greater, it's true, he would have stayed in Eretz Yisrael, and in that sense, he was sinned, there was a flaw. But at the end of the day, he left Eretz Yisrael without questioning Hashem. He went down to Mitzrayim. His wife was taken in danger. And again, he didn't question Hashem. Every step of the way, he did exactly what he was supposed to. Had he been on a higher level, had he had more bitachon, he would have stayed in Eretz Yisrael. So in that sense, there's a flaw. In his crown for eternity is a 200-carat diamond with a flaw. Had he been greater, he would have stayed in Eretz Yisrael. It's true, there's a slight flaw, but the flaw does not discount the diamond. The flaw lets you know that he's real, a real human being. And this concept, I believe, is fundamental for growth. Anytime a person is real with themselves, time a person really worked on themselves, they'll wake up one morning and say, oh my goodness, I have real flaws. I really have a temper, or I'm arrogant, or I'm lazy, or I'm jealous, or whatever it may be. And if you ever do that self-critical, very difficult thing to do, like look in the mirror and be honest with yourself, you'll see that you have real flaws. But you see, that's the point. That's what proves that I'm a human being. It doesn't make me worthless and doesn't make me a slime. It makes me a diamond with a flaw. I grow, I've accomplished, I've done many great things. I also have flaws. And that ability to look in the mirror, recognize that I did things wrong, and recognize they really are wrong, is a very, very difficult skill to attain. And most human beings either deny anything that they've done wrong, or if they actually see the flaw, oh my goodness, I'm worthless, forget it, it's toast. The ability to say these words, I failed, but I failed doesn't mean I'm a failure, is one of the most important concepts you could ever come across. And when you understand that that's really what growth is about, Hashem gave us strength, gave us talent, gave us abilities, and Hashem created us with shortcomings, with lacks, with flaws. My goal is not to be perfect. My goal is to grow and accomplish, to win as many nisyonos as I can, and to resist as much as I can, to grow as much as I can. And I also have to recognize that I'm not going to hit every single goal, and I'm not going to win every single battle. And the ability to look myself in the eye and say, I failed, that does not mean I'm a failure, is one of the skills in life. And if you'd like to see one of the greatest examples of this, all you have to do is look at the Avos, one after another. And to me, probably the most classic example is David HaMelech. Every day in Tachanun, we read words that are very, very powerful. Yagatsi ba'anchasi, my groans, I filled my bed with tears. Read the words in Tachanun. David HaMelech felt such regret. And do you know why? Because he was the Melech Yisrael. And he lived with an Eishes Ish. He failed. The greatest Nisayan of his life, he failed. And it was known to everyone throughout the Klal Yisrael. Everyone knew it. And he was mocked. Talmidei Chachamim made fun of him when he went to the Beis Medrash. And he felt such pain and such horrific busha. And just read the words of Tachanun. He filled his bed with tears, crying, groans, terrible, terrible angst. Here's my question. Which bridge did David HaMelech jump off of? Right? Obviously, it's over, right? David ben Yishai, Meshicha, the appointed, the anointed of Hashem, forget, it's all over, right? Toast, we're done. No more of that stuff, right? It's done. After what you've done, it's over. You're finished. So which bridge did David HaMelech jump off of? And the answer is he didn't jump off of any bridge. He's up there. Again, it's a little bit of machlokas, whether he's 5, 6, or 7, exactly where he is. but he's up there amongst the 7 greatest human beings who ever walked the face of the planet. But you understand how he got up there? He failed and looked in the mirror and said these words, yes, I failed. I blew it. I messed up. But I failed doesn't mean I am a failure. And the ability to do that is something that is critical for life. I think Avraham Avinu is a classic example. He failed on some level. Had he been greater, as Ramban says, he would have stayed in Eretz Yisrael. On some level, he failed. Nevertheless, this is one of the great crowning achievements of his life. He went down to Mitzrayim. He didn't question Hashem. In fact, throughout this is one of the great actions that he did. It's a diamond for eternity with a flaw. Had he been greater, he would have stayed. There's a flaw there, but the flaw does not prove that it's not a diamond, quite the opposite. 2 diamonds, one that's flawless is worthless, the one with the flaw means it's real. And that concept that every human being has flaws, I too am a human being. I'm not supposed to be perfect. Hashem didn't create me to be perfect. Hashem created me to grow and accomplish, and that's ultimately my goal, and that's ultimately what I'm charged with, to grow and accomplish and to become what I was put on this planet to be. And that is what I wanted to share with you this evening. What I'd like to do now is open the floor to questions. Please feel free to raise your hands. On your right side, you should have on the participant panel, you have a hand that you could raise and ask a question. If you raise your hand, I'll call on you. We also have people who type in questions. People sent in, but please feel free to raise your hand, and I will gladly call on you. And I see we have our first brave candidate. Avram, you have the floor. Hi.
All right, good evening, Rabbi.
Good evening.
I have 2 questions. I think they're very similar to each other, but so I'll ask both of them. They're coming from the same point. I was listening to the Shmuz in depth today. So we were talking about Avraham Avinu and Sarah not seeing
Yep.
Sarah's beauty and all. The question I had was two points. One was that even if however you explain the reason why he never needed to focus on Sarah's beauty, but we know that Avraham Avinu looked at the world and was able to see the beauty of the world and see the Rabbanu Shalom. So even if he didn't need on his Madrega, didn't need Sarah's beauty to be attracted to her, but shouldn't he have seen her beauty like any other beauty in the world, to be able to see Hashem and to know that she had that beauty, that Hashem gave it to her,
right.
At least
Good.
from that perspective?
Good. Okay, that's a good question. Let me just bring everyone else into the discussion. So the pasuk says, when Avram Avinu goes down to Mitzrayim, Ata yadati, now I know, ki isha yifat mara, now I know you're a beautiful woman. And Rashi explains that because they were going down to Mitzrayim were known as Shetufei Zima, they were immoral people. Rashi explains that's why Avram decided it's time for me to look. Let me see, oh yes, sorry, you're a beautiful woman. And now I see you're a beautiful woman. Explains Rashi, up until that point he did not notice it. He did not look at her, and only now did he notice. Okay, so the question is, why didn't he notice? So I think the simple answer really is that Avram Avinu and Sarah Imenu had a love. By the way, the Maral says, in the course of history, there was never a bond, an attachment of husband and wife as there was between Sarah and Avram. But the point was, it wasn't based on physicality. It wasn't based on desire or lust or whatever. Now, those are important tools for us human beings. But Avram Avinu and Sarah Imenu were on such a madrega that they bonded together. There was a love. There was just a pure, absolute attachment that didn't need the physical tools to get there. We need physical tools. We need desire. We need attraction. We need many, many tools that Hashem gave us to create that bond, because we are human beings who are very flawed. Avram Avinu and Sarah Imenu were completely other-centered, completely focused on chesed, and when 2 perfect tzaddikim joined together, there was a bond, there was an attachment. Desire in that sense wasn't needed. Avram Avinu, if Avram would have looked at Sarah, by the way, as an illustration of this point, let me ask you this question. Granted, Avram Avinu didn't need to look because he didn't need it, but isn't it insulting to your wife? How do you think she felt? You never compliment me. You don't buy me cards. You don't say I'm beautiful. Never once in my time. They're married now. He's 75. and they're married now. Avram Avinu was 25. They're married 50 years now. Not once did he compliment his wife. Come on, what kind of person is that? So I'd like to share with you an interesting observation. When I come home from shul, I remember this one Friday night. I came home from shul, and before making kiddush, one of my daughters said to me, "Oh, Abba, that's a nice tie." And I said, "Yeah, right? Oh, yeah, okay." And to be honest with you, now women are very into their clothing, and it's a big compliment. And I guess she thought she's giving me a compliment to my ties, but it really didn't. I don't know. Look at my ties, nice, not like it, you know. And Avram Avinu said to Sarah, "You're a beautiful woman." Oh, come on, that's how you look at me. You look at me with fleshik eye, with eyes like that. That's where you see my beauty. Meaning, these people were so spiritual. They were so pure. They were on such a lofty level that an Avram Avinu looked at eyes with Sarah and said, "You're a beautiful woman." You mean my external? I mean the outside. That's what you see, the beauty. It would have been an insult to Sarah Imenu. These people, you know, the Avos were, we live up to the Avos, we look up to them, but they were on a totally different plane. And in that sense, physical beauty wasn't needed because they were so pure, so holy, that they had that attachment, a tremendous bond of love without the physical desire. And I believe that's exactly why Aminu didn't need it. It wasn't relevant. It was like small thing, not a small, it would have been insulting to her, insulting to him. It was not the beauty of the woman. The beauty of the woman was her midos, her munah, her bitachon, who she was as a human being, not the external. So does that answer the question a little bit?
Not so much, because I understand. I understand that as why they didn't need it in the marriage, but not knowing. I mean, you know that you don't focus on the trees outside, but you know that the trees look beautiful when it's green. You look beautiful when they change colors. You know,
it's not. It's so irrelevant. It's not a. How do I explain this? In other words, it's insulting to Sarah. It's insulting to Avram. It's not a relevant. It's like. You tell a, I don't know. I can understand why. To me, when my daughter complimented me on my tie, can you understand why? Here, imagine you go over to a great Rosh Yeshiva, a great Talmid Chacham, and say, "Oh, your kapata is so beautiful." Come on, you insult. Kapata is beautiful. It's very nice. Your hat, what a beautiful hat you have. Like it's, you know what I'm saying? It's like so superficial. It's so trivial. You're insulting the man. You're not complimenting him. You know, you sort of go with the Rebbe. Oh, your strimal is so beautiful. It's an insult. If the man is a malach Elokim, and the man is literally like a shining light, and you compliment him on how shiny his buttons are, you're not complimenting him. You're insulting him because you're missing the beauty of the person. You're missing the greatness. You know what I'm saying? Eliyahu Navi, what a beautiful coat you have, Eliyahu Navi. Please do me a favor. You know what I'm saying?
I think so.
All right. Okay. I hope that answers. All right. Okay, Eliyahu, speaking of Eliyahu, you have the floor now. Hi. I think you have the floor. Eliyahu? It says talking permitted. Maybe not. 1 second. Let me see. Yeah, it says talking permitted, I think. Talking permitted. I think so. Eliyahu, can you hear me? I hear you. I don't hear you. Unmute. Okay, I'm going to mute you, and we'll go on to the next person. You'll keep your hand up if you're interested. We'll go over to Talmud. Okay, Talmud. Okay, yes, hi.
Shalom Aleichem.
Aleichem shalom.
So I have a question. So let's say your spouse doesn't respect things that you do. Like let's say they say, I can't respect this about you or that about you. What can they do? Let's say they expected you to be a certain way, and then they find out you're not this way, and you have certain midot. What can they do about it?
What can they do about it? What can you do about it? Yeah, help me a little bit more with the question.
Let's say they expected you to be more with davening and learning and just things like that, davening and learning and not being lazy, things like that. What can the spouse do to deal with it?
Okay, that is a very real problem. I feel like I'm being put into the lion's den over here. Usually, Shalom Bayis problems have two sides to it. So and dealing with one side is a little tricky because there's usually another side. But I'm gonna deal with this as if I had the whole picture, which I don't. So the bottom line is like this: each human being has strengths, weaknesses, and we have to remember one thing. My job is to work on me. My spouse's job is to work on her. Meaning, it is very easy, and by the way, this happens time after time. We become experts at what our spouse does wrong. I'll explain to you why. Let's say by nature I'm very neat, and by nature my spouse isn't. I can't help but notice all the time that she's sloppy and she's late and she's leaving things around. Why? Because my nature is to be neat, and it bothers me that she's not neat. Now, the minute that starts happening, what happens is immediately I say to myself, why don't you just be neat? It's so simple. I could do it easily. It's simple. Why don't you just do it? Why don't you just do it? And the reason why that's so unfair is because the reason why it bothers me is because by nature I'm neat. It's easy for me. And guess what? It's not easy for her. I had a guy once who told me, I can't respect my wife. I can't respect her. I can't respect her. Why? Because, listen, first of all, we made up to feed the kids only healthy food, and she doesn't do it. And the kids don't exercise. They don't get. I can't respect her. Now, I had a tough time explaining to this fellow. He's a little unusual. He wakes up every morning at 5:30, jumps into a freezing cold shower so he can just acclimate himself to getting control of himself, exercises in 45 minutes, and then he begins his day by learning, etc. Okay. I had a tough time explaining to this fellow that by nature, he's extraordinarily disciplined. He's an extremely disciplined person, and that's a strength, and that's great. But guess what? It's not fair to demand of your spouse to be you. I'm sure there are other things that you don't do well that she does well, and if for her to demand of you to be her would be unfair, and for you to hold her to your standards is just unfair. So in that sense, I say as follows. Your job is to work on you. Your spouse's job is to work on you. If your spouse says, I can't respect you because X, Y, and Z, I say, that's a little unfair because let me see how perfect you are, madam. And by the way, any woman who thinks she's perfect and any woman who thinks it's so easy, I have one simple question. My question that I ask women all the time, and again, I'm jumping into this, but at the risk of being, of missing half the question. But in any case, what I say to women on a regular basis is, let me ask you, are you currently at your ideal weight? Are you at your ideal weight? Now, I don't know many women who are, and one thing for sure, once they're 40, they sure aren't. So I have a very simple question. Why aren't you your ideal weight? You go to Weight Watchers, they give you a nutritional balanced meal plan with snacks, and just stick to the diet and just lose the weight. Why aren't you at your ideal weight? And what is the answer to that question? The answer to that question is because change is very difficult. It's very easy to say, I'm going to stick to the diet. But when things happen in life and things, it's very difficult to change. And the same way, it's very difficult for you to lose weight. It's very difficult for your husband to do whatever it is. But why? Why can't he just? For the same reason that you can't just. And it's very unfair for one spouse to say to the other, why don't you just? What that means is, for me, it's easy, so why don't you do it? The answer is, for you, it's easy, but it doesn't mean for your spouse it's easy. So, again, I can't answer Shalom Bayit's problems on one side of the equation, but that certainly would be a perspective that I would want to share, that it's unfair to have expectations of your spouse that are based on your perceptions, your strengths, your personality, your temperament, and it's unfair to hold your spouse to your standards. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Much hatzlacha. Okay. Please feel free to raise your hand if you have questions. And I have a question over here. Someone asks, if Yosef would have failed, would it have been over for him? So Chazal say that it's true. Had he failed that Nisayon for Ashes Potiphar. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. All right. I thought I disabled talking. I guess I didn't. Okay, I'm sorry. Someone asked a question, if Yosef had failed, wouldn't it have been over for him? So Chazal tell us that Nisayon, when Ashes Potiphar, had he failed, he would not have been in the Shiftei Kah. He would not have been amongst the Shvatim. That was his Nisayon. And it's true. There are certain Nishonos in life that are your Olympic trial. You either make the gold or you don't. But that does not mean, if you fail that you're a nobody. Yosef would have been a great, great person. But B, not every Nisayan is a Nisayan like Yosef, meaning to say, there are going to be many Nisyonos that we fail, and we get back on the horse, get knocked off, get back again, back, and eventually you pass it. I don't know what, had Yosef failed that one time, what would have happened? I don't know. Most likely, and again, Chazal said he would have been excluded from the Shiftei, the Shvatim. I don't know, maybe he could have done tshuva, maybe would have, I don't know, maybe that was his goal. But one thing for sure, most of the time, what we're given on Nisyonos, that we're going to win some, lose some, pass some, not pass some. But if I fail, it doesn't make me no one. It doesn't make me worthless. It means that I have to work, I have to continue. I'm a diamond with a flaw. And even, by the way, had Yosef failed, he would have been a tremendous person. He might not have been one of the Shvatim, but he would have been a tremendous, tremendous person. And again, I don't know that he couldn't have done tshuva. I don't know if he couldn't have picked himself back up. Not really sure. It's hard to really be certain. Okay, please feel free if you have questions to raise your hand. They can be again on this topic or any topic. Please feel free to ask. If you're shy, you can type them in. I'm going to have to bring Oshi Parnas back because Oshi Parnas is great at soliciting people to stop being shy and getting them to actually ask questions and getting them to actually be straightforward. But please feel free to ask. If you have a question, you can, again, if you want to type it in, you can. If you want to raise your hand, I sure would prefer it that way. Okay, I have a question that someone actually sent in by email before, and it goes as follows. It's a little bit of a long question, but it goes as follows. If everything is from Hashem, then every single tiny thing that happens to me should be from Hashem as well. So how far can I go in order to find Hashem's message? For example, I get Chinese takeout food, and they put in some fortune cookies. I open the cookie and read the paper, and it's great chizuk that I assumed I needed to hear because everything is from Hashem. Now can I open a second fortune cookie and assume that whatever is written inside is from Hashem, and Hashem wants me to hear that at the moment? How far do I go with this? Okay, so let me be very clear. I many times I heard my Rebbe, the Shmuz, I'll say, we don't darshan directional signals. What that means is we don't have a right to look at things and say, oh, Hashem is sending me a message. You don't know what Hashem is sending you. You don't have, if you're a Navi, for instance, why did Hashem bring Corona? Why are we going through this now? So if you'd like to know the answer to that question, it's very simple. All you have to do is find a Navi. Find a Navi and say, please tell me, Koam Hashem, what did Hashem say? Why did he bring this Magefa? Now, if you don't have a Navi around, you can't know the answer to that. Now, it happens to be Nevuah ended with the Korban of the Beis HaMikdash, and we no longer have Nevuah. And anyone who says, I know, I can tell you, how do I say it politely? It's a little bit above your pay scale. Now, we can conjecture, I can take a guess, I could say it might be, it could be, it may be, but anybody says, I know, Ko Amar Hashem, is a Navi Sheker, because unless Hashem told you, this is why I brought it, you don't know. I'm going to guess, I think, I believe, it might be. So the point is, just like major life events, we don't know the why. So too, even small things. I know this is why Hashem brought this. How do you know? You don't know. You're supposed to know that Hashem runs the world. You're supposed to know that Hashem is directing you. You're supposed to know that Hashem has a plan. Exactly what the plan is, I don't know. Exactly why Hashem does things, I don't know. Now, when there are things that are obvious, for instance, a punishment that's clear, you did something and you got a patch. There are times when you're able to know that Hashem is sending you something, because if Hashem is sending you a punishment, if the punishment can't teach you, it's not going to help. So there are some times when you're able to know, but they're very uncommon. The vast majority of the time, we don't know. I know Hashem has a plan. I know Hashem is leading me. Exactly what that plan is, I don't know. And I have no right to say, because this happened, it means Hashem wants me to do this. I have no idea. And more than that, by the way, on a personal level, I'll tell you something. A number of years ago, I stopped saying no. And I'll tell you why. Because every major opportunity that I was presented with and I said no, I ended up doing. I stopped saying no because I knew that if I said the word no, I'd end up doing whatever it was. I just stopped saying no because I knew that was a way for me to have to end up doing it. So you don't know. What you think is right isn't always right. What you think is wrong isn't always wrong. Your job is to follow the Shulchan Aruch, follow Das Torah. There's a way of doing things. You're not supposed to follow I think this is what Hashem wants. I think this is what Hashem means. You follow the Shulchan Aruch, and we have a way of acting. We have a way of conducting ourselves. There's Das Torah, and that's how we go about life. But we don't have a right to look at events of history and say, oh, look, the fact that, let's say, Rahman al-San, President Trump loses. No only such a thing. But let's say that happens. If that happens, oh, it's a simon that, I don't know what it's a simon. Maybe it's a simon that, well, maybe Joe Biden will be the best thing for Israel, best thing for the Jews, best thing, maybe who knows what. I don't know. Now, again, Api Derech HaTeva, it certainly seems like something that will be bad, but I don't know. My job is to use my seichel, my wisdom, and my job is to approach things logically. But again, at a certain point, I don't know. And beyond that, I can't, I can't, and I certainly don't darshan directional signals. Okay, if you have questions, please feel free. Anonymous attendee, if Hashem is not physical, why does he need a Beis HaMikdash? He doesn't. We need the Beis HaMikdash. Hashem doesn't need a Beis HaMikdash. We need it. And the Beis HaMikdash is a place that Hashem Shechina Shora rests, and we're able to experience Hashem to a much greater extent. We're able to bask in Hashem's glory to a much greater extent. Hashem doesn't need anything. Hashem is limitless, boundless. Hashem doesn't have any lacks. Hashem is sholem. Sholem means complete, without any needs, without any lacks, without needing anything. Hashem created man, entire humanity, to give to us, to give us the opportunity to grow and accomplish. One of the things that's very beneficial is when Hashem is more present, life is much better. It's much easier to experience Hashem. It's much easier to grow and accomplish. But if you want to know why Hashem needs the Beis HaMikdash, Hashem doesn't need anything, including the Beis HaMikdash. We need it, again, for many, many reasons. So that really is right. Okay, please feel free to raise your hand if you have questions on this subject or any other subject. Please feel free. Grace Tzaddik, you have your hand up. I don't know your name yet. We spoke many times, but go for it. You have the floor. Hi.
Okay. Well, my name is Edward.
Edward. Shalom.
Yeah.
Hi.
I have a weird question. I mean, don't take it like a mockery. But as I know, Hashem asked Abraham to circumcise himself. Am I right?
Yes.
So my question is it like to ask you to make root canal or remove your appendicitis? How did he do it? I mean, I checked the internet, I couldn't find what kind of tool he used or how he did it.
Edward, it's a very good question. I've never thought about it. It's a very good question.
As you know, it's unorthodox questions, right?
I used to, as a high school Rebbe, the most important words I ever said was, I don't know. And I think I have to say that now. I don't know the answer. That's a very good question. I'll tell you what, I'll keep my eyes open and I'll look around a little bit. I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, clearly he did it and he circumcised himself. First, and how could he do? I don't know. Good question. And then I do not know. Good one.
Yeah. They didn't have any metal things, right? They have like stone.
No. Metal he had. Metal he had. The sheet. Metal wasn't the problem. The problem was the courage. It's not. On an adult, it's a major procedure, and it's not. Listen, he went to Shech Yitzchak with a machelet, with a knife, with a. That was. Maybe that's the same answer, that Avraham Avinu had that kind of gvura, that strength, that internal fortitude to be able to do it. I don't know. I have to think about it. It's interesting you say it because I never thought about it. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, Shkar. Okay, please feel. I'm going to make it not told. I can't do this. I got this. Disable talk. Got it. Okay, please feel free. If you have questions, please feel free to raise your hand. If you like to type the question in because you're shy, you can do that. But please feel free you can ask questions on this subject, on any subject. If you're not too inquisitive or nothing's troubling you, we could discuss many other things. Again, I do want to mention again the on the Shmuz, both on the Shmuz site as well as the Shmuz podcast, as well as the Shmuz app. There are quite a number of series. And one series that I highly recommend that I'm very into right now, the marriage seminar, It's a 12-part on marriage, and I think there was a gentleman asked a question today about marriage. I highly, highly recommend you listen to that marriage seminar. I'm right now finishing a book called The 10 Really Dumb Mistakes That Very Smart Couples Make. It's in the final editing process, and I'd like to share with you. Over the years, I found that many, many very smart people make very dumb mistakes. And when you're in the thick and thin of things, you don't realize it. You don't understand, and people don't realize the trouble they cause themselves. It's my wife. No, it's my husband. It's him. It's her. And when you start understanding what's really going on, you start discovering that you are doing things that are not too wise. You're reacting in a way that's not very helpful. But if you don't understand the other gender, if you don't understand why your husband or wife does things, if you're not able to get past your own limitations, you're not even aware of it, you don't even get it, you don't even understand it, and you're living in a blind world. So I highly recommend Marriage Seminar. It's a 12-part on the Shmuz.com. And again, it's also on the Shmuz podcast or the Shmuz app. And again, also the WhatsApp group, the WhatsApp Chizuk group, if you're interested, please please subscribe to 845-216-9330. Avram, you have another question? Go for it.
So I forgot to ask my second question earlier.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem. I just remember now. The kasha I had is that it sounds like from Psukim that it wasn't until as they were traveling down to Mitzrayim that Avraham Avinu noticed Sarah's beauty. So the question I had was, forgetting about the additional beauty she had and all that, just if you're going somewhere where there's potential of danger, which would be in this case any married man that's married to a beautiful woman of any sort that they would possibly take and kill the husband for it. Wouldn't that be something you think about before you leave on your trip, not during the trip?
Okay, fair question. Keep in mind a few things. Number one, Avram Avinu was a very powerful man, very well known, and very feared. Remember when the 4 kings fought against the 5 kings, and the 4 kings were victorious, they were basically the rulers of the earth. They captured Lot, Avram's nephew, and Avram goes to war against them, and Avram won that war. Avram at that point was the most powerful human being alive. So Avram Avinu was not this sort of like little timid, he was a Gibor Chayil. Now he's going to Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim were particularly Shetufei Zima. They were very, very immoral. And in that environment, it's really dangerous. Other than that, it's the kind of thing no one would have the audacity to, look at Avram Avinu's wife that way. No one would dream of doing it. But Mitzrayim were unusual. They were really decadent. And there, once Avram started going into that environment, he said it's time to look at this issue. I believe that's how I would approach this question.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Please feel free. We got to hang down. Please feel free. No one has questions? Okay. I'm the only one who has questions. Every time I open a chumash, I have a question after question after question. I'm the only person with questions. Okay. No one has questions. Okay. Here's a question that someone typed in because someone is too shy. We're not going to. All right. We'll take it if you're shy. What can we as parents and older siblings do for the younger generation that is getting influenced by the Goyish world and social media? Daven for Mashiach. That's all I can say. Am I allowed to be candid? I've never. That was a question. Maybe tell me if I'm allowed to be candid. Maybe somebody raise your hand. Say if I'm allowed to or not allowed to. Maybe not allowed to. Okay. I have never in my life been this petrified. Do you understand that the election on Tuesday night is not an election of individuals? It's an election of ideology. It's whether socialism takes over this country. I don't know if you recognize the danger that we are in, but the Democratic Party is now ruled by a powerful leftist, liberal, socialist agenda that believes in everything opposite of the founding fathers of this country. This nation was founded on great principles, free market capitalism, the concept of hard work, the concept of exceptionalism, the concept of really standing up and being great. This country was founded on phenomenal principles, and it's lived gloriously for now well over 200 years now. And it's now being, there's a vote on Tuesday, which will basically determine whether the future of the country is a free democracy or a socialist. All right, anyway, without getting into politics, because we don't talk politics, it is a very scary, scary thought. And by the way, do you understand the real danger is because anybody under 40 has had their brain, the media and the universities are the greatest influences of society. The universities are ruled by domineering leftist liberals. They are so powerful and they're so, liberals are always open-minded until you argue with their agenda. And if you argue with their agenda, they are so close-minded. I've never met someone as close-minded as a liberal person. They claim to be open. They're so blinded and they're so locked into that liberal agenda that there is no room for tolerance. There's no room for other positions. If you go to university, if you've gone to university in the United States of America, in Western civilization, you are bombarded with a leftist liberal agenda, and that is what you're exposed to. If you're exposed to the media, you're again exposed to the same thing. And between the media and the university system, they've basically taken over the younger generation. So unfortunately, it's not just social media, it's any form of media, but certainly social media is worse. And it's gotten so pervasive and so distant from, again, the concept that this country was founded on, that it's very hard to even make heads or tails of it. So my answer is you got to daven for Mashiach. There is no solution because you're not going to stop social media. You're not going to stop the media in general. You're not going to stop the university. You're not going to take back the universities because they're just completely overrun, and it's now become a think tank. It's become a propaganda institute of the leftist agenda. So, well, I don't know what to tell you. Daven. That's all I can say. Okay. Please do so. Okay. And please raise your hands if you have questions, thoughts on this topic or any other topic. And not on politics, hopefully, though, because I don't really want to get. I'm trying to avoid that. It's very troubling and very bothering. It's a very bothersome. By the way, folks, I don't know if you appreciate. Never in the course of history has we, as Jewish people, have been granted this gift. We are free. We have opportunity. We could get whatever. We could live our life as we wish to. We could belong to any. We get an education anywhere. Join any society. Join any guilds that keep us out. No trades that we're not allowed into. We have opportunity in this land that we've never been granted before. And again, it's been the most beautiful environment for us, and we especially have to appreciate it. Again, it's being very much, it's being challenged, and the foundation, the very foundation of the republic, is really what's being challenged. So I'm not going to tell you to go out there and go vote, but go out there and vote. Again, I don't want to get political here, but so we're going to stick with politics. We're going to stick to religion. And so please feel free. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I may have to get Oshi back to prompt people to ask questions because otherwise people get shy. Okay, is it better? Here's an interesting question. Is it better to daven that world events occur so that it's good for the Jews rather than daven for the particular election results? That's an interesting question. It's a very interesting question. First of all, again, whenever we daven, one of the most important words you have to say at the end of any tefillah, no matter what it is if it's for the best. Let's assume for the moment that I assume it'd be far better for the country for Donald Trump to be reelected. Do I know? I don't really know. I believe so. According to the way I view the world, according to my limited understanding, it would seem to be much better. But I really don't know. Again, it could be the exact opposite. It could be Biden will take over and it'll be, who knows what. I don't have a clue. So anytime we daven, no matter what the tefillah is, you end with the words, if it's for the best. So number one, again, if it's for the best. Now, good for the Jews, usually, to be very blunt, good for the Jews is usually good for the world. I don't want to get involved in, I'm not here to defend Donald Trump as a human being. As you know, Rabbi Dvidus really said it best when President Trump was originally running for office. Radulis Rosh Yeshiva Rochester said, as a Rosh Yeshiva, as a Rosh Kolo, I would never vote for him. But for that dirty job of President of the United States of America, he's the perfect man for the job. And I'd like to explain to you what that means. You see, again, if you have to buck the liberal media, the buck liberal agenda, you have to fight such a bitter, bitter battle. They blame President Trump for being nasty and infighting and etc. And it's true. I would not give him the Midos of the Year award. But I'd also like to share with you that the media have been so incredibly biased and incredibly negative. The man can't raise his hand without being lambasted and bombarded. It's just so outrageous. And the only way that a person could possibly buck the liberal agenda is if he is a fighter, because they're going to crush you, they're going to destroy you, because the highest good is the liberal agenda. The highest good is what they think is the salvation of mankind, namely their propositions, their approach. And once they believe that way, everything has to fall prey to that, and anything that stands in that way has to be obliterated and gotten rid of. So the bottom line is that, generally speaking, what's good for the Jews is good for the world, and what's good for the world is good for the Jews. So I'm not sure if that's contained within your question, what you were asking. But again, the answer really would be, obviously, it's very good for the world if the Jews do well, and very bad for the world if the Jews do poorly. The truth is, it's really hard to know in any real exact sense, because we don't know. But again, I would say, generally speaking, you daven for the good of Jews, and that means the good of the world. And it's rare that those two conflict one with the other. So I don't know if that answers the question, but if you're brave enough, you can raise your hand, then you could explain a little bit more. And please don't be shy. Don't be shy. Please go for it. Paul, you got your hand up? Go for it. You got the floor. Hi.
Rabbi, I think you really did answer my question well. I wasn't so much focusing on, is it good for the Jews or not? I mean, I agree that what's good for the Jews is generally good for the world, and we want to bring Hashem into this world, and that's part of our mission. And with Hashem in the world is a better place. It's just that, like the Rabbi said, we just don't know necessarily what's best. And
Right.
I think here, more than even when you're davening for your own well-being, your family's well-being, that I feel more comfortable saying this is what I want, and then add on if it's for the best. But when it's global politics, I've for the last few months I've been davening for the results to be what's good for the world and the Jewish people, as opposed to Trump should win, because I just don't know.
You know something? That's excellent. I agree with you. That's really is very accurate, because who knows? Who possibly can know? Because listen, right now, to my eye, it seems that the best thing in the world would be for the president to win another term. How do I know? Maybe he'll end up causing a world war. Who knows what's going to... I can't possibly know. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think it's a very safe bet to say, you know, Hashem, you know better than I. You do what's the best. Again, we're supposed to use our judgment, and we're supposed to use our sense, and it would seem to me, you know, again, in this case, it would seem pretty clear to me that it would be much better for the world for President Trump to win than for the alternative. But you're right. It's very debatable. Listen, you know, President Carter was the biggest anti-Semite that ever walked the face of the planet, but no one knew it. The entire time he was president, there was nothing. I mean, he wasn't the best friend of Israel, but he wasn't that bad. He was, in fact, pretty good. He helped Israel. In fact, he saved Israel more than once. And it wasn't until he was out of office that he became a rabid anti-Semite. So, you know, Hashem has different ways of running the world, and what to our eye looks so good or so bad isn't always that way. So I agree with you. It's always better to let Hashem, you know, be involved. Leave certain jobs up to Hashem, like running the world. That's something he does better than we, you know.
I feel it should be successful as well, Rabbi. Thank you very much.
Right. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Okay. BP Simon, Shalom Aleichem. How we doing? You got the floor?
Yeah.
Okay.
My understanding from when previous elections and other stuff, that the Yeshiva held very strongly that setting aside the liberal conservative, particularly when it came to like the president. You can't vote for someone who's a maneuver and mushkas for his. Someone like Donald Trump was like, all these guys are bad, but this guy, he doesn't care. He talks like such a maneuver mushkas. Like, how could we as B'nai Torah vote for someone with a mouth and an action like that?
Right. And so again,
sounds like you should set aside politics.
Right. So let me be very honest with you. If he was running for president of the shul, if he was running for pope, if he was running for, I would vote him. I'd vote against him. Absolutely. But the job of the president of the United States of America today, when there's such a destructive liberal force that's so negative and so absolutely trying to destroy the fabric of the country, the only person who can fight that is a fighter. I would not tell my children study his midos. I would not say be like.
But that's what happens. He's the president. He gets the pulpit. People are looking at this. This is the example that's being set for everything. Everyone looks at it. As long as he's in the position, everyone looks at his tweets. Everyone looks at this. And this is what he talks about people.
You're right. You know? I agree with you. But the problem is social media is a lot worse. And there's a lot of things on the internet that are 1,000 times worse. And don't tell me that he's such a maneuver when you can't even look at the internet, any part of the internet, without seeing things that are so outrageous and so beyond description. So you're right. I'm not defending him, and I'm not telling you you should be that way, I should be that way. And if I had a choice between him and Ronald Reagan, forget about it. Ronald Reagan was a class act. The man was he was incredible. Donald Trump is not Ronald Reagan. But today, if Ronald Reagan were in office, he'd be destroyed. I want you to understand something. Do you understand the debasing, hateful, malicious, destructive, constant barrage that he gets on a daily basis? I don't know a human being who could.
Like this long before that, he was like that. He is who he is before, and he hasn't become this because of what he's going through. No,
I agree with you, but watch. If you just pay attention to the amount of negative press, but when I say negative, I mean nasty, dirty stuff that he wasn't guilty of and didn't do, but they'll destroy him for anything. I don't think there's a human being alive who could take that without being like just booshed out. Ronald Reagan today, I don't think could run the presidency. He was too much of a gentleman, and he wouldn't be able to stand the kind of busha that he would get for being a normal human being.
So and if you build a chaya?
Yes, exactly. You need a Vilda Chaya because that's the only thing that can stand up to that type. Right.
Someone who has integrity, someone who's at least gives the presentation of mensch. If you versus a Pence, let's say you're versus a Pence.
Oh, yeah, you're right. But Pence could not run the country. Pence would be destroyed. He could not run the country. They're so destructive. They're so negative. There's so much. They're so incredibly unfair and unkind. Watch what the cancel culture means. If you violate any of our cardinal principles, you're canceled. Our cardinal principles are the entire leftist liberal agenda. That means environmentalism.
We talked about last week with the fact that if you go against anything that's PC, then they're gonna talk so negative about you and terrible about
you. Not they go. You're canceled. You're canceled. You don't have a right to an opinion that's against the politically correct opinion. So how could you deal with that? Take a man like Pence, and I agree with you. Pence is a mensch, and he presents beautifully, and he speaks eloquently. I love him. He's great. Put him in the office. They destroy him in a heartbeat.
So what happens, even if, let's say, Trump becomes president for, what happens after that 4 years? There's only one Trump out there.
I agree. I don't know. The good thing that God runs the world and not you and me, because we'd be in big trouble. But I don't know what the answer is. Believe me, it's a rough situation. I cry for the Republic. I have tremendous hakaras hatov for what this country has done for us. It's a beautiful country. I love this country. And I cry for the future because it looks very, very bleak. I'm not a depressive person. I'm a very optimistic person, but it sure does not look good.
Even if we had a 6-3 House and a Senate and a House of Representatives all conservative, and just the president wasn't Trump, we'd still be in trouble?
That might, well, if that were true, maybe you're right. If you stack the entire Congress on the Republican side.
Right. So we're going to have a 6-3. We're going to have a 6-3. There's a chance for the Senate. The House probably not so much, but
a chance. And even that, it's not so simple.
Every time we see him up there, it just bothers me. Like, this is the person that represents our country, represents.
But honestly, 1 second. Joe Biden is a mensch, right?
a lot on face value, he's a lot more of a mensch than Trump.
Okay.
Sure.
Joe Biden in the last debate said, I did not say I would ban fracking. And President Trump said to him, but we have it on tape. Show me the tape. I never said it. Show me the tape.
Okay.
The
All
next
right.
day, viral went out the 5 or 6 interviewed where Biden said the words,
So he's a
ban
politician.
fracking.
So he's a politician.
One second.
Biden's a regular politician.
So one second. With all due respect, one second. And to me, I call that sheker muchlat, a liar. I said the word 5 times, at least 5 or 6 times. He was taped publicly saying, I'll ban fracking. And then on a public debate,
So he's talking about in the future. He's talking in the future that we have to move towards energy.
No. He said, I never would ban fracking. I never said it. I won't do it. And yet they haven't taped it. He said 5 times he did it. One more example.
Short-term versus long-term. He's talking short-term versus long-term.
Okay. Kamala Harris. Okay, we'll get political. And Kamala Harris, when she's running for president, she is blasting Biden as every name in the book. He's a racist. He's a misogynist. Every name in the book. Then she loses that, and she's elected. She's given the opportunity to be vice president. And suddenly, my friend Joe. So one of the talk show hosts asked her, I understand. You were blasting. You called him every name in the book. Well, how do you explain that? The answer is that was a debate. So let me explain to you what that means in plain language. What that means in plain language is, in front of Am Va'eda, I lied, embarrassed the man, and destroyed his reputation because it was a debate. So don't tell me these people are such uprighteous, such moral people. We're not talking about George Washington and Abraham Lincoln over here.
No politician today is. But
so good.
He seems to be like a class in himself. The way he talks. When this whole Access Hollywood thing came out before the last election, everyone thought for sure he's going to lose because he's talking on television this terrible way he talks about women like they're objects and other things like that. And they says, oh, it's locker room talk. This is the way he talks. He talks
again,
like people.
I would not again. Right. I would not tell you to vote for him as Pope. I would not tell you to vote for me even as a shamish in a shul. But for this dirty job, the President of the United States of America is doing a good job. All right, listen, that's my thoughts. All right. Okay, Hatzlacha. Okay, hold on, let me see if I could disable talking. Okay, Talmud, you have a question?
Hey, so there's a lot of kahilos and shuls saying that if Biden wins, we have to move to Israel because it's going to be like the Holocaust. Should we take this seriously? Because I don't feel like anyone's a Navi. And I mean, these things, should we get our passports ready and move to Israel and get apartments and make arrangements? Or is this just ignore it?
Okay, so first of all, that should be anyway. During Shemona Esrei, 3 times a day we say it. We ask Hashem to bring Mashiach. We have to have our eyes on Israel. We have to try to get there. We have to try to always be waiting. Biden wins, Biden loses. Either way, that's ultimately where we have to try to get to and be, and etc. Now, exactly what happens, as you said, it's very hard to play Novi. First of all, maybe Trump will win. And second of all, if he loses, who knows? Biden may turn out to be the exact opposite. It's very hard to know. It would look pretty dim. I said to my wife, asked me, what's going to happen if Biden wins? What are you going to do? I said those words. I said, okay, I'm going to start. We're taking a trip to Israel. I don't know. It's very hard to know. Let's hope we don't come to it. Let's hope. And more than we really don't know. But it's certainly a very good idea always. By the way, I want to let you in a secret also. Israel is also a pretty darn leftist, liberal society over there. It's not exactly a Torah. I mean, listen, it's Eretz Yisrael, it's Kodesh, it's holy. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that are not so over there either. It's not like, you know what I mean? It's not like we're talking about after Mashiach time. It's so. Bottom line is, we as always, we are in grave danger. Ein lanu ela avinu shebashamayim. We have to rely on Hashem because ultimately we don't know. Let's see what happens. Vote early. Vote Republican. That's all I can say. And you have to mispalel daven. I don't know.
Okay.
All right. Tzlacha. Okay. If you have any questions.
Thanks for joining us for today's podcast. We'll be posting more here. So be sure to come back for new content. For daily inspiration, join our WhatsApp group by messaging +19 1489 36848 or visit theshmuz.com for more resources. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at info@theshmuz.com. Looking forward to having you with us again soon.